Hey, welcome everybody. This is Jeff with Junior Hockey Advisor, Monday night. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for jumping in. As usual, throw some comments up. Tell us where you're at, who you are, what kind of kid you got playing, if you got a kid playing. What's really interesting over the last few years is to find out how many people have kids that have already moved on and are playing college hockey, or in their last year, juniors, already committed, that the parents are still involved in the show. We've got just a ton of different people to watch. I'm so glad that you guys are with us tonight. Going to do a little bit something different. We are going to ask you questions and get some conversation going with you, just to get a handle around parents and thoughts and where your head's at as far as the game. The junior scene, the 18 scene, the college scene, wherever you're at. I'll throw out a few questions as the night goes on, and maybe we can get some good conversation stirred. We're going to have some people jump in. As usual, I'd leave the door open for Bloomer. And every time I say, tonight, you should drink. Because I watched one of our videos the other night, and I was like, that's ridiculous. Can't do that. That's so unprofessional. So get yourself a nice drink, get yourself a bottle, whatever you got to do. And every time I say, take a drink, let's see how far we go and how far we get through the show, if that's the case. Well, listen, once again, I'm Jeff Colson. This is Junior Hockey Advisor. Tonight is Ask Me Anything Monday night. We talk about the process. We talk about how hockey works. I've been doing this for over 35 years. I've been an owner. I've been a general manager. I've been an NCAA coach, coach at junior level, coach youth. I've been a president of a youth organization for years. And this is what I do. This is what I love. I work for a team in the North American Hockey League right now as a director of player development, and I love life. I talk hockey, and I watch hockey. What else could you want? What else could you live for in my world? Maybe throw in some family activities, some vacations once in a while, and in an airplane I can fly once in a while, and life's good. I'm doing everything I want in life, and I'm enjoying the heck out of it. So with that said, I want to make sure I mention a couple things, clean up little things. We finally got a discount code built in today and it was just getting people in the same room at the same time and not out in the field doing other things hockey related. But we've got discount codes built in for those of you that subscribed to our YouTube channel, and we promised you that you could get the free copy of the All About the Family Advisor, which we sell as a webinar. It's one of our products that's actually for sale. Everybody that signed up on our YouTube channel, the Junior Hockey Advisor YouTube channel last week, all you have to do is DM me, and I will still honor that discount code. So we're going to get those out tomorrow and the day after. It's a little bit of an arduous project because it's all custom click and paste and build for each individual person. It's not as easy as I wished it was, but that's okay. That's okay. We made a commitment. I'm going to follow through it. So you'll get those over the next day or two here. And same thing goes for tonight. If you're watching, and if you go over and subscribe to the YouTube channel, Junior Hockey Advisor YouTube channel, and you want a copy of All About the Family Advisor, it just breaks things down in detail, talks a little bit more. I know we just did a recent one of these podcasts on the Junior Hockey Family Advisor and some of the things going on with it. This gets into a little more detail on certain things, and it also puts it down so you can attack hiring an advisor and work through the process of hiring the advisor so it works for you. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I'd be glad to get that out to you as soon as possible. Let's say hi to some people here. We've got, holy smokes, CCCFN in Oregon, 18U player. Awesome. Good to see you. Eugene. Nice. We've got Danielle's on, sitting in South Carolina. Whereabouts are you in South Carolina? We're about to take a trip down to Tybee Island. I think that's where it is in a few weeks. How far away is that? I don't think we'll have a chance to visit. We're going down there for some serious R&R, and don't plan on leaving a chair once I get down there. But just curious to know where you're at in the state. And Frank's on, Brownstown, Michigan, and his grandson plays for the Notre Dame Hounds up in the Saskatchewan League. So great to see you, Frank, coming on. Chicago parent with an 04 son playing in New Hampshire, looking for advice on Best ways to get exposure. Well, that's a great place to be. I don't know how much we'll get into tonight on that topic directly. I'll sure if we're about a half hour in and we haven't got you answered properly, send me another note there and we'll see if we can jump in. Got a New York parent with an 07 defense. How do I get him more exposure? Okay, so we got the exposure questions coming in. What does here's a good one. All right, let's just start off with questions first. I was going to ask you questions, but the questions are coming on. So here's a good one. Frank says, what exactly does a development guy do? I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that. Every team's different. In junior hockey, there was I caught myself. Everybody drank. Geez, now I'm going to do it all night. Every team is different. For some teams, a general manager is just a head scout. In other words, the general manager has nothing to do with the operation of the team. It has everything to do with getting players to the team. So a general manager sometimes is set up to have the scouts fall right underneath him. Sometimes the general manager is the head coach, and then he builds his scouts and his assistant coaches the way he wants to. Some coaches some programs, the general manager is actually what you consider a general manager. They're involved with the hiring and firing of personnel. They're involved with everything. They actually have a responsibility outside of just finding new players. So every team's different. I can only tell you what our team does and what I do. So there's two co-directors, myself and you guys all, not all of you, but many of you have met Bloomer. He may or may not pop on tonight, but we're co-directors for the same team. So we have a staff of scouts that work for us from Europe to Canada to key parts of the United States, Michigan, New York, Boston, Chicago, Minnesota, and we've got scouts. I think we've got one in Colorado too, but we've got scouts across the United States. And then we coordinate those scouts. We filter the players. We build out our game plan at the request of the coach, because this is all going back to our coach GM, who ultimately has the final decision on this. Do we have say? Sometimes, sometimes we have a lot of say. Last year we had, practically the two of us, Mike and myself, we did a lot of everything that went on. This year, the coaches have a direction that they've already got in their mind of where they want to go, and we don't know yet because we have to get to the draft. We have to get through the tender process and the draft to really know what our influence is year to year. So sometimes the influence of the draft board we built, the potential players we build, the forecasting that we build, it could go out the window, because if the team makes a last minute trade or two, they could change the dynamics of the team. If in the off season, same thing could happen. Some players that we expected to come back could leave. Some of the people that we liked may have decided to go to the BCHL. Or they got picked up in the USHL, which is a very common issue. So it changes. It really does. But normally what I'm doing is I'm working to try to make sure we meet with our scouts, talk to our scouts, get a plan built on who's watching who's covering what area, and coordinating everything so everything works smoothly, and we've actually got a plan in place. Some years we're in meetings with the coaching staff twice a week, and then other times we don't meet with the coaching staff except for maybe every other week. It all depends on how good the team's performing, how good the conversations are. Is there a necessary meeting? We don't like to just have a meeting to have a meeting. Usually we're trying to have a meeting to get past something. We actually make a decision on something. So right now, since the pre-draft camps are coming up, there's meetings on the pre-draft, getting the date set on those, rolling out pre-drafts. That's important. That's we're very involved in that, and we're talking to scouts on who they expect to be at pre-draft so that we are accommodating and we know who to watch. In other words, if we've got 50 guys from our scouts that have been invited that they really think have a chance of making the team, we're going to make sure that we've got eyes on them the right way. Then we coordinate sheets to make sure there's lots of eyes either on our pre-draft camp or our main camp, and we try to make sure that everybody gets looked at and everybody's got a set of eyes on them. And then it's all discussions after that. So Pre-draft is important for us to be at. Main camp's important for us to be at. We do get a heavy amount of burden put on us in those situations to make sure that we're making the right decision. So in our situation, the coach respects both of us and leans on us, and we're used properly. In other teams, once again, they don't even have development guys. They don't have directors of development. Also, basically what we do is we're the middle manager in the situation to make sure everything's controlled and we don't drop a ball. And then we've got coverage everywhere, and that we have eyes on as many people out there as we possibly can. So hopefully that helps, Frank. Let's see. Frank's got a follow-up on that. He says, our pre-draft camps by invite? Yes and no. So, of course, everybody thinks that every pre-draft camp is just a generic letter sent out. And I would say that, of course, there's going to be a generic letter sent out, but it's not the generic letter that you think. We have a system that all teams in the NOL use that's used by the NHL, it's used by the USHL, it's used by most junior teams and junior programs out there. It's called RinkNet. And on RinkNet, we can build lists and we can sort lists. So instead of just blanketing, in the old days you would blanket and just get a mailing list from a youth organization, and you'd mail to all their 16 through 18-year-old kids. And that literally happened. Tier 3 especially, you blanket the emails. Now it tends to be a filtered list, meaning I can say I only want kids that play in Tier 1 Elite or HPHL. I'm making this up right now. And I only want kids that are at least 16 years old. They have had to play at the Tier 1 level for at least 2 seasons. So you can filter, and every team filters it differently, but then you get a list of players that are competitive players that fit for your area. So yes, there's certain teams that might get 10, 12, or the whole team invited. There's other teams that may only get 1, 2, or 3 in the same market playing in the same league. So it depends on how they're filtered, but yes, there is a list. Can you reach out to a team and get into a pre-draft camp? Absolutely. Absolutely, you can reach out to a team. And I would just be selective on that, because you obviously can't go to, in my opinion, you can't go to 3 or 4 pre-drafts. You pick the 1 or the 2 that you did a little homework on the team. You look to see how many players they have returning. That's super important. Folks, I can't tell you how important that is. If I'm going to go to a pre-draft camp, for example, our camp last year, we only had a couple kids returning to our NAHL team. We were heavily laden on older players. So that would have been an incredible year for somebody to, come out to our camp, make it into main camp, and have a legitimate shot of making the team. Now, a year where you're returning 15 players, that's not the year in my opinion, once again, that's not the year you want to, focus on that camp as your only camp. You might want to open the door to another camp that's not returning many players, because they're out there. And of course they're going to draft, and of course they're going to tender players, but you sure as heck have a much better chance of making a team when everybody's new on the ice, and assistant coaches, scouts, GMs, player development guys, whatever you got, they're not as familiar with those other people, and they're not familiar with you that much either. That's the time you want to come out to the team, because there's no assumptions. Everybody's looking, and then if you stand out, they're looking on the sheet thinking, oh, is that one of our draft picks? Is that one of our tenders? No, okay. We better circle him and watch him. So absolutely, you can invite yourself to a camp across the board. So let's jump in and see if we got some other questions coming in, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. Okay, so hey, Danielle, thanks for getting back. You are in Greer, South Carolina. I hope I just didn't, what do you call that, dox you? What's that called when they call you, when you get called out on? I didn't mean to do that. A few hours away, upstate almost to North Carolina, but west of the coast. Okay, I got an idea. You're up and over there. Last year or the year before, we went up to just south of Asheville, Hendersonville, North Carolina, and we did some flying. My wife and I flew out of a grass strip, which was really cool, but we got a chance to go into South Carolina. We got a chance to go into Tennessee, Georgia, went over to Clemson and landed next to Clemson, the college, and really cool area. Hendersonville, North Carolina. If you have never been there, it's a cute little town, kind of an artisan town. And at Christmas, the whole downtown shuts down, and you think you're in Whoville at Christmas time. So great place to go. And if you're looking for winter activities, it's not that far from Gatlinville, Tennessee, for folks that are if you've never been to Gatlinville, that's actually, believe it or not, Tennessee ski country. Gatlinville's got skiing, snowboarding, and it's got a resort on top of the hill just outside of downtown. Literally, the chairlift runs from downtown up. So it's really cool. So Hendersonville, Gatlinville, I don't know how I got out of those, but why not? Why not? Why can't we talk about whatever we want to? So thanks for getting back to me on that one. Somebody else says Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Yeah, Hilton Head's right next door. We've actually been there before, but we're trying Tybee this time. Somebody on Facebook has the comment of, I would think a player development director would assist players in how to get to the next level. Yeah, I can see how that could be the case. We're actually underneath the team trying to get those players pulled up to the team. So we're on the back side of this, we're on the initial side of this, not on the output side. And output side is that's at the next level. So if you guys going up to try to get into the USHL, they've got people that are working with him, talking to him. See, part of my job is, once the player's identified, we've got a ton of steps. We've got to interview, meet, watch games, talk to the coaches. There's probably 2, 3, 4 weeks worth of 2 weeks if you're meeting on several things a week. But we've got to explain who we are. We got to get a visit set up with our team. We've got to have the player come down and spend a week with us. We've got to talk to the parents, make sure they're a good fit. Maybe sometimes even have a Zoom call with the player, parent, and the current coach and talk about things and see if it's a good fit. Because not every NAL team is a good fit for a player, and there's nothing worse than bringing a great player in to a team that he doesn't fit with. So the development side is, I've got a year, essentially. Maybe you might want to say I have from the time when I initially make contact with the player to the time main camp and to the fall camp come around to get him prepared and get him ready. So sometimes it's conversations and talking and discussing about how our staff works. Sometimes it's talk about system play. Sometimes it's talking about billets and home life, and then getting them to experience some of the things by getting them down for a week. So yes, I can see how you can get confused on that, but we're that intermediate step between after a player's been identified, and that's a scouting role, then we step in to try to help make sure it's all smooth to get them ready so they're absolutely ready to fire on all 8 cylinders. Old school, we're talking, maybe even 2 carburetor 8 cylinders, ready for the camp and ready for, everything that's going to come and everything that junior hockey entails at that level. So, I understand what you're saying. No, that's because, remember, a lot of teams are coach GM, and they're set up that way with that coach GM, and that GM's still got a player role, a player development role. He's usually the first contact to the college level. We get involved with the college level some, but that's probably less than 10, 20% of my time. Most of the time it's the head coach because first of all, if you got a chance to talk to a guy out in the field or you got a chance to talk to the head coach about a current player on the roster, who are you going to talk to? Most college coaches want to go straight to the source. So in fact, I couldn't see it any other way. I know most of these coaches. I talk to these guys, not as much anymore. There's a lot of new guys out there that, I'm in the old school camp, so I know some of the older coaches. I know a lot of the assistant coaches, but they'd rather talk to our head coach. And the reason they'd rather talk to our head coach is he's right there. And in our specific situation, he's the most tenured guy in the NAL right now, and he's one of the winningest coaches around. They know his output. They know what he's like. They know his temperament. So they talk directly to him to get it right from the horse's mouth, which in our situation works really well. It's a good role, and it's a good way to work. So let's see what else is coming on. The CCHL in Quebec, we play the EHL teams in the Worcester Showcase last month. Be interesting to see what those came out like. Hold on, you said you're the does that say the CCHL or does it say the QCHL? Okay, I am not familiar with the QCHL. I know about the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, which is the very familiar with that league, which is the CGHL member from Quebec into Junior A hockey. If you're talking about that league, or if you're talking about a Junior B program, which I'm imagining that's a Junior B league, the QCHL, I'm not as familiar with Junior B hockey. Gojo hockey, yes. I know some of the Vancouver programs, yes, but that would be something I just don't know much about. I'd be very interested to hear how you did against the EHL, which, if you don't know, that's the Eastern Hockey League. The Eastern Hockey League is a Tier 3, a very good Tier 3 league in the States. So it'd be very interesting to hear that. Andrew came on. Andrew says hello from New Brunswick. Good to see Andrew. Roughly, how much does it cost to play D3 hockey? Okay. Oh, hold it. I thought it said D3. Boy, oh boy. It's because the type is so small. I downloaded the latest version, and I can't get the type back up to the old site, the old style text and font we had. So roughly, how much does it cost to play NA3? It's subjective, market to market. Remember, if you're playing it, let's just put it this way. If you're playing in the New York City market, that greater New York market, New Jersey, Connecticut, you're playing for one of those teams that pay $500, $600 for ice, the price is going to be a little bit higher. You play in somewhere mid-America, Minnesota, some of the Illinois rinks, maybe some of the Michigan rinks, they might be buying ice, non-prime ice, they may be paying less than $200 for it. So it all depends on where you pay. I would say low end on the market now to play NA3 or to play USPHL Premier or to play EHL, you're probably talking, because those are the three main Tier 3 leagues in the United States, you're probably talking low end. I don't know if I've seen anything lower than $8,000 or $9,000. Correct me if you've got a team that you know that's lower than that. And on the high end, boy, 12, 13, 14, depending on the market. Two things that cut into it. I did a video a few weeks ago for you. I put it up. It's on the Facebook page. The cost of D3 hockey, how the books work, where the money goes. Two things that kill you. Two things that kill you as an owner and as an operator or a manager that's reports to the ownership. Ice cost kills you, especially if you're paying, let's say you're paying $180 for non-prime, so you're really happy you're getting a lot of ice at good prices on your non-prime. Then the weekend comes up and you've got a game, and you've got to protect up to 4 hours of ice because you got warm-ups, Zamboni cut, and then a Zamboni cut between each period, and you may have overtime. So you might have a 4-hour block there, and if that's $500 an hour, that's $2,000. Boom. And most Tier 3 junior programs don't draw much of a crowd. You got grandmas and girlfriends. So if you're only drawing in 100, 150 people, there's not much offset from that money coming in. Usually there's not even enough to cover the cost of your referees. And, I think you got to set around $250 to $500 aside for referees, depending on which market you're in. So it's tough. It's real tough. That's the price range, though. But all you have to do is, the other thing is you add up ice cost to tell, what teams spend their money on, and you add up travel. And when you're paying, $1,500 to $2,000 a day for a charter bus, and different areas, different rules, some of them you're unionized, which means that maybe the bus driver can only drive 6 hours, so you got to have two drivers. There's different rules on those, so it can be very expensive for hotel rooms. Travel kills you, ice time kills you. It doesn't kill you, just eats your budget. That's the two things that eat your budget. So that's one of the things you always ask is, how many kids in the room? In fact, you shouldn't ask the coach that. You should be asking billet parents how many people they put in a room, and players, current players, past players, because there are some programs. The only time we ever put 4 in a room is when we got one of those resident inn suites that had 2 bedrooms with 2 queens on each side. Then you can put 4 in a room. Maybe 5 if they got a couch in the middle room, because you got 2 bathrooms, you got 2 bedrooms, and it's a big, nice space. Everybody's got plenty of room. So you might be able to put a few more bodies in a room like that. But if you're getting the standard 2 queens, some junior teams will only max you. You get up to Tier 2, Tier 1, you're probably only seeing two people in those rooms. Maybe a rookie where you got 3 people in a room. It's not uncommon for a Tier 3 team to put 4 in those rooms. 2 guys per queen bed. So it is what it is. Some guys bring their own air mattresses. There's all kinds of things that are going on. But that's a great question to ask a team is how many people they actually put on the ice. Charles from Massapequa, good to see you on. And that was a good question, though, that came in from our new U18 player on there. And he comes back with another question that says, how does school work while playing in the league? Do you attend online school, go in person, take a break from school, etc.? Once again, customized to the team, customized to the player. You do get some provisions from USA Hockey, but remember, NA3HL is the only league that falls under USA Hockey at Tier 3. You get provisions that say you can't be traded if you're in school at a brick and mortar school. Most kids that are in junior hockey, if they're still at high school age, they're usually playing in a local market for the most part. For the most part, doesn't mean there aren't kids out there. And if not, they're going online. So if I'm 17 years old and I'm playing junior hockey out of my market, I'm usually playing online or going to school online. Once you're graduated from high school, for example, my youngest son, when he was playing juniors, he literally got into his second semester sophomore year before he started college. So by the time his first year in college was done, he was already aiming for his junior year. So that'll give you a little bit of an idea of what you can get done if you put a little effort into it as far as school goes. So hope that helps. Let's see what else we got here. Tybee Island is a very nice beach close to Savannah. Yeah, that's why we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to jumping over to Savannah. And my wife loves the town. I have not spent much time in Savannah, so we're going to jump around and do some things there. So Tony's on from St. Louis. Good to see you. Liz is on in Ohio. Good to see you too. So I got a question for you all. What, if you're still not in the junior realm yet and you're still 16, 18-year-old hockey, what kind of fears or what kind of anxiety comes with being a parent right now as you're moving? Is it the cost that's involved? Is it the making the right decision for the right team? Is it the moving away factor? Give me some ideas what parents are struggling with and what they're concerned about right now the most. And you remember, everybody's got a different opinion. There is no wrong answer to this. I'm just trying to get an idea and a sense from you on what you think's important. What gets in the way of maybe gives you a little bit of sleep dysphoria, maybe some bad dreams, maybe stay up a little later, maybe got to drink some warm milk. I don't know. I'm very interested in hearing. I mean, I try to cover the bases and give you answers for as many things as we can, but I sure would like to know, and I just threw out a couple. Is it the cost? Is it the coach? Is it the fact that the team's too far away? Is it the fact that the team's too close to home, where you can't really spread your wings and become an independent kid? So think about that a little bit. Throw me some answers. I'll jump on and grab a couple as we're going here. The first one comes from one of our Facebook pages, and it says, making the right decision, college versus going to juniors. Okay, so the one that put this question up, this is important because, there is, if you plan on playing NCAA hockey, now you need to hear this. If you plan on playing NCAA hockey, all roads lead to junior hockey first. And I'll explain that. I'll say it again. If you plan on playing Division I, Division III, NCAA hockey, all roads lead to junior hockey first. And I actually made my hands come together. I started them out far, brought them in together for that junior hockey. And what I mean by that is prep school, Minnesota high school, some of your great pockets of other high schools in Detroit, the Boston area. There's some good. Wisconsin's got some good high school hockey. There are great players coming out of all the areas. So at the NCAA Division I level, maybe you'll see one rare kid once in a while that'll jump straight from there to a Division I program. It is super rare. Okay, super rare. However, you'll see all players that are Division I play at least a year USHL, BCHL, NAHL hockey. And usually in the null, you're playing 2 or 3 years. USHL, you might play 1 to 3 years, but there's a lot of one and dones. BCHL, American players, a lot of one and dones that come from the prestigious prep programs. So you'd say, well, Jeff, we know we're going to play D3. Okay, why do I need to play juniors if I'm going to play D3? Well, okay, so I want you to take the look at this from the perspective of the coach. Coach says, my, oh my, your son's a really good player. He's D3 material. In fact, he's good enough to play for us now. And you go, well, that's great. I don't have to play juniors. Maybe I'm saving money because I have to pay for juniors. I'm saving time. I can stay on path. And the coach goes, whoa, 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 whoa. Just because I said he was good enough that he could play, it doesn't mean we're going to take him right now. Why? Because there's a guy that's 3 years older that plays exactly the same way, that's just as good, but he's got 3 years of maturity. He's got college under his belt already because he's been doing online courses, and he's got the experience of playing junior hockey where the competitive level is much higher than he was playing at U18 or high school or prep. So you're very rarely, this is extremely rare where you see anybody take a high school kid out. So when you say go straight to college, that's perfectly fine, but the option becomes college club hockey, which is not a bad option. But you'll also find there that maybe that limits you to certain teams because the big guns, the top guns, the really good ACHA teams are the same way. It's a tryout process. It's a group tryout process. They literally try out for these teams. You can be recruited, but you've got older players and older players that are more mature that don't go through the freshman, whatever you go through as a freshman. They're not as concerned about being tipped upside down on top of the keg. They're not trying certain things and smoking funny things. All the things that freshmen go through when they're, hey, let's be frank, that they're college, they're freshmen. Things are going to happen there. Not your son or my son, but there's people out there that may do some things, but that's a freshman, okay? The reason why even D3 programs like that last year junior player is most of that stuff's out of their system. Not all, but most of that stuff is out of their system, and it just makes it for a much easier transition to the college ranks. So, keep that in mind. I don't know if that really hit the question the right way or not. So let's see if okay, here's another one. Rick says, finding the right team where he can play some minutes and be happy. That's great, and I can understand how there's some anxiety there. Remember, there's so many untapped resources to find this out. Prior coaches, past coaches, players that are a year ahead of your son, players that have older brothers, going to camps and clinics, going to showcases, playing on different showcase teams that have players that maybe are a year or two ahead of you in the process. Your showcase coaches, power skating instructors, clinics, summer camps. All these people have input that can help you on this. Looking at standings, emailing coaches, texting coaches, finding out how they respond. Are they good communicators? Do they invite you to watch the program and come out and spend some time with the team? All these things are things that add up and help with that. So you've got resources there, and maybe some of them are untapped. Hopefully you're taking advantage of as many resources as you can in that situation. Here's one, and this is the tryout process. In my market, Chicago, teams all seem to have tryouts on the same days. So you need to commit to one team. Problem is it doesn't work out. Okay, so once again, you're absolutely right. There's a small window to actually hold pre-drafts. There's a small window of when you actually have main camps. And I'm assuming you're talking about trying out for a junior team, and it's a pre-draft or it's a main camp. But the number can be narrowed down and almost, put yourself in a situation where with that junior team, you always want to have options open. But if you have to choose, let's say there's 3 tryouts on the same day or on the same weekend, I should say, and you were invited to all 3 and you want to make the team, you're coming out of U18. Okay, so now it all comes down to all the things we've been talking about. Find out as much as you can about the coach. What's the winning record? What league are they playing in? Remember, you want to be in the highest level league you can play in if you are in that league, then you want to ascend to the strongest team possible. And usually with a strong team comes a strong coach that's well connected. Playing for a brand new coach at the tier 3 level, even at the tier 2 level, no matter what their resume is, wherever they're at before, let's say I'm playing for a brand new coach that was an NHL player for 10 years. That's great. If he played in the OHL, he may not have little to no connections with D1 coaches. Now, a 10-year NHL guy may be able to get those guys to pick up their phone, but you don't see too many 10-year NHL guys doing it. Usually they're European pros. They're played lower pro level if they're coming out of the pro ranks. But if they played OHL or major junior, they're not necessarily connected in the world. So, having a coach that's been around, that's connected, that can prove they're connected, that's important. So how do you know if that coach is connected? See what the output of that team is. Just pull the team up and see where they're placing players. Pull up the NCAA teams that you're interested in. If you're looking at D3 teams, pull them up, see if they've got anybody on the roster that came through that program. So you want to look at the leagues and the program. So, then cost comes into play. Location, rink, culture, social ability to do other things than just hockey. All these things can come into play and really do help make the decision in prioritizing which one is the key one to go to. And it may not be the one that's the most popular with the rest of your teammates. In fact, sometimes I would say, steer upstream when your team's all steering downstream. Because if you're playing U18 in the Chicago area and everybody picks a tier 3 program they're going to go to the main camp or they're going to go to the pre-draft skate with, if you're in the middle of the pack or you're even in the top third, you're still competing against a bunch of people you already know, and that's going to take up space. Maybe the program down the street's a little bit better because it gives you more opportunity to be unique and stand out a little bit more. So hopefully that helps. I don't know if I can answer all these to comfort you completely, but there are some strategies. Okay, here's a good one. Keith says, speaking as a parent with a son in first-year junior hockey, it was the Billet family, and would they be good? Keith, I'd love to hear how that turned out and if that anxiety went away. How much did the team do to help quell that fear? And I'll give you an example. When we were running junior teams here in Rochester, we would have a billet family night. Actually, we hosted it in our backyard, and I had a lot of deck space. And we would have burgers and hot dogs, and everybody would mix, and then everybody would introduce themselves. We had some senior billet parents that kind of were the hovering billet parent. They would kind of watch over 2 or 3 new billet families. But everybody talked, everybody chatted. So, we were looking for the senior, junior guys that had been around the block a little bit, that work with billets, and we put little subgroups together so they could have some new rookies. The rookies could go to them and ask them questions, work out their problems with a player before they brought it up, because it's sometimes easier to work that problem out with the player. Good billet programs have lots of communication, and they have lots of different ways for players to communicate and to resolve problems. And not necessarily going to the coach, not necessarily going to the team first, maybe going to a player first. And then, of course, working in learning to talk to your billet family. That's important. I'd love to see, if you could, Keith, give us a little bit of feedback on, was that resolved, or did you feel comfortable with the way that resolved? And folks, especially Keith, since your name shows up on your if you don't feel comfortable because your name's on it and your answer may affect your son right now, please just say, Jeff, I'll DM you or something. Because the last thing I want to do is you go, and not Keith wouldn't do this, but somebody saying, hey, the billet situation stunk and everything fell apart. Because that doesn't do your son any good right now. I would prefer you not to answer than to get yourself in a situation that could actually not be so hot. So hopefully we can get some information out of you. I'd love to hear the next part of that. Danielle says, as soon as it pops up, there we go. Being assured you found a team that is a good fit for your player and do what they say they would do. That is so important. Across the board, people say some things, coaches say some things, and it just goes, here's the things I see happen and happen over and over again. We meet with our players weekly. We have team meetings. We go over and we audit the billet houses. The coaching staff, we go over and we audit the billet housing. We stop in randomly to make sure everything's okay. We watch film daily. Those are the things that a lot of teams commit to in the recruiting process, but don't follow up with on the season. So once again, we watch a lot of film. We meet with the players. We audit the billets houses, and we communicate with the billet parents. Those are the kind of things you hear that don't always happen. So, once again, you have to take whoever's recruiting you, assistant coach, GM, player development director, head coach, through the process, and then you have to weigh that off on can I trust them, and can I get that confirmed through another source? Hey, do you mind? Do you have your billet coordinator, the director of your billet program? Do you have their number? Can I reach out to them and talk? I just have questions that maybe is best just to ask the billet coordinator. Hey, how do you watch your film? Do you do it as a group? Ask some questions specifically that can actually open the door. And they go, well, I don't know. Sometimes the more vague they are, the more that most likely it's not as accurate and as team designed and planned and pre-programmed as it might sound in the recruiting process. So, another one you hear a lot is we're a systems team. We develop our systems and we play an advanced system. And then you get there and you find out that it's the same system your Pee Wee coach was teaching you when you were just coming out of AA into AAA. So be careful. I have to be careful when I say these things because there are actually coaches and programs that are members of this discussion group that are on both sides of the coin, the good guys and the bad guys. And so I know I'm walking a fine line there. So, okay, let's see what there. It says, hey, Jeff. Hey there, Jeff. It's been a little bit. Greg from Amherstburg, Ontario. If you don't know where Amherstburg is, great to see you, Greg. Glad to see you back on. Jump over the bridge, hang a right. You'll run into it now. Now the Detroit-Gordie Howe Bridge is coming into play. Windsor, Detroit, Gordie Howe Bridge. Just saw it the other day. Big, massive new bridge going up there. It'll be really cool to get across that bridge and see if it relieves a little bit of the congestion on a very, very old bridge. A little trivia for those that don't know. Right now there's two ways to get across in Detroit. There's the tunnel, and there's actually the Peace Bridge. That's the bridge that's on the southern part of the connection. Two ways right now. The bridge is privately held and privately owned by one family. And the family they're billionaires now because of that bridge and because they were actually able to develop other things because of owning that bridge. So a little trivia, not too many private bridges running from country to country. There is one in Detroit of all places. So if you didn't know that, now you do. Okay, got another question from our young U18 player. From a player's standpoint, cost for sure, being 18, working a minimum wage job, trying to save for juniors. Another thing is grades. Having a high enough to get is a struggle for some. Next one is skill. So you're saying money. The good news is, and this is fantastic news for most 18-year-olds now. This last 2 or 3 years, we've just seen an explosion, pandemic related or what the demand was on that. I know that a lot of states wanted to move their wages up. I know Walmart, Amazon, a lot of companies were pressured to move their rates up. But now, it's not uncommon to see, $12, $13, $14, $15 an hour for an 18-year-old. And with a little experience, maybe that jumps up even a little higher from where you're starting. So a lot of areas when you get in there, don't jump at the first job. Drive around a little bit, look for the sign in the window, because if they're desperate to hire, they're usually hired at a high wage. So I know in our area right now, I just saw one the other day. It was a Panera Bread, I think, $16 an hour. That's not bad. That's not bad. I mean, you can't retire on $16 an hour, but man, oh man, from a guy that my first job was at $1.85, I look at that and say, wow, that's pretty nice. Keith got back to me and he says, they ended up being absolutely wonderful. That's great, Keith. I'm glad to hear that. That is a big anxiety area, and look, both of my kids billeted at different points. Most of them are super, super positive. We got to one program, one Tier 2 junior program, and he started the season out there. He just got his D1 commitment. He was a pretty happy camper at the time, coming in full of confidence. And the billet situation really, really weighed heavy on him, and it affected everything. It affected how he felt about going to practice. It affected him on how to go to games, and I'll give you the reason why. They had 4 or 5 billets living in one house. Now, the house was big enough to accommodate, but the family, they were in it to actually turn a profit. So whatever the billet fee was, let's say it was $400 per player, they're getting $2,000. Breakfast almost always was a big pan full of oatmeal, okay, every morning. And it wasn't oatmeal with fruit and oatmeal with granola. It was just oatmeal. And you could put sugar in it if you wanted to, or some cream in it if you wanted to, but it was oatmeal. And a lot of their meals are the same way. Dump 2 big boxes of pasta in a big bowl and throw some cheap spaghetti sauce on it. That was the meal, not with any kind of meat, no protein in it, and just maybe a piece of bread or 2 on the side. But when you start getting those kind of meals all the time, on game day, he wouldn't eat there. He'd go out. Most days, as far as breakfast goes, he'd start skipping it. So when the players started skipping it, they started making less food. And it was almost by design. It almost felt like the billet parents, were purposely putting bad meals on the table so the kids would go, oh, we'll just go out and eat out all the time. And then the family just stopped making breakfast. And then once in a while, the billet dad, like once every 2 weeks, would make scrambled eggs or something and, request that the boys all eat breakfast with him. And I think that was just a CYA move, but it really affected the team. It really affected the players. Because, every time they didn't want to go back to meals. They just didn't want to wake up and see the same gray pan, for big pot full of porridge for the most part. So it definitely can affect a player in knowing, how they get fed. And, for the most part, every time my kids have been in a billet situation, it's been phenomenal. Although, my daughter, my NCAA national championship daughter, she had a billet situation when she was playing juniors up in Canada that literally would feed their daughter filet mignon and feed our daughter a chicken cutlet. They were not equal. It was still good food, but there was their only child got some really, really, really good meals, and it took a lot to get our daughter talked out of the tree on that one and get her to understand that nothing you can do about it. She got fed quality food, but she was also on a portion control situation. She got a meal. She didn't get seconds. She didn't get thirds. She got a meal, and that's the way they were. So billeting is extremely, extremely important. It's a tough thing for families. 90% of the families out there, 95% of the families out there do a hell of a job. The family that, and they might be listening right now, the family that my son lived with in Odessa, who's a very big member of our discussion group and actively participate, they literally would have given him a list every day of what do you want for dinner, that kind of thing. And he had active I don't think they gave him a list, but he had active participation in the meals, had active participation where he felt like he was a family member. We still are in full conversation. My son, every milestone in his life, he reaches out to them to make sure they're included in, hey, I got on the dean's list. Hey, this happened. I scored a goal, whatever. They're part of that, and that's the type of family you want to develop if you can in the billet situation. That's extremely special, and that makes you as a real parent feel great that those parents are working out so well, because they'll be his parents for the rest of his life, and that's a relationship that I can't improve on. It's an awesome situation. So when it goes right, it goes really right, and it's really fun to deal with. One person says, making the right decision with the team and the coach. Super. I think everybody's in agreement on that one. Keith also says we even went to Winnipeg over Thanksgiving, and they made us Thanksgiving dinner while we were in town. That's it. You're hitting it just out of the park if you get a billet family that not only treats your son well, but integrates into your family. So, if they're, we've already tried to make different things happen where we get to go visit our family. My wife and I want to go visit my son's old billet family because they're that cool, and we bonded around a common theme, which is my idiot son. He's a good kid, but you get the point. You get the point. All right, Frank, I get it. You got to jump off. Have a great time. Good luck to your grandson. Hope he has a great game. So Greg asked the question, what do billets charge? Who pays? So Tier 1 hockey, there is no charge. That's the USHL. It used to be the BCHL, and the AJ worked under the same premise. But post-pandemic, that's changed. There's charges for teams up there now too. I don't know if that's short-term or long-term because the BCHL used to run under, you played in the BCHL, everything was covered. So I don't know how that's going to affect if that's a short-term thing or a long-term thing. At the NAL level, you might find something printed in USA Hockey on caps, but I would imagine that cap also is set to whatever part of the nation and is prorated to whatever part of the nation you're in. I know we were paying, a few years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we were paying $400 a month, and that was room and board for a player in the North American League. We paid $300 in the AJ. I think that's we paid $250, $300. So it's going to be in that range. It's not bad. It's actually if you get the right family that has a well balanced diet, that's pretty good. Now some programs will only provide you the meals. Some billet families will only provide you meals, and they got quality meals. But any of your snack food, if you're a M&M's eater, or if you got to have graham crackers every once in a while, whatever sweet or salty food you're craving. And hey, look, you can be an athlete, but every once in a while you might just want to sit down and have some buttered popcorn. It's not a bad thing to have some snack food, but that's usually on the player. Some families will do milk, juice, maybe bottled waters, but if you're going to do any sodas, you're going to do any Gatorades, that's on your dime. So some will carry it all. Some will get all that stuff for you. But once again, I can tell you this: we were a billet family for years, when I owned a team, and our house was set up so it was really isolated enough where they didn't ever feel like coach was breathing down their neck. They literally had their own game room, bedroom, bathroom, all to themselves. TVs, sitting areas, everything was cool on that side, but nothing irritated me more than to walk through the house and find a half bottle left of soda, half bottle left of Gatorade, half bottle left of bottled water. And we were supplying all that stuff. So, if I bought a case of water and only a third of it's being used and they're drinking a third of the case, it gets really frustrating. So part of it's also the respect of the player to, if you take it off the shelf, drink the whole thing. Because nothing irritates a billet family more than just watching frivolous use of things going out the window. So hopefully that helps on the answer of that. Anyway, that was great to hear some of your answers and to spend a little time talking about what you're thinking about the anxiety that comes with being a parent and some of the things. Maybe I helped a little bit, or maybe I just made it worse. I don't know, because I just thought I'd try something different by asking you questions and seeing what you're thinking. But thanks for everybody that participated in the responses. That was awesome. Please don't forget, you can go to USA Hockey. No, don't go to USA Hockey. First of all, did I do better with the or did I just forget about counting them anymore? Anybody get really, really drunk because I said too many tonight? I'll work on it. Look, I did it again. I'll work on it again, but when I'm editing this tonight, I'll see how many O's I threw in there. I'm thinking close to 30, just ballparking it. So I'll get better at that. Go to Junior Hockey Advisor YouTube page, subscribe. Got a little gift for you all about the Family Advisor. It does help. The more planning you do, the more questions you ask. Knowing what questions to ask will make you a better parent in this whole process. And don't forget, at any time, you can DM me. You can put it on our Facebook discussion group. If you've got a question or you've got an idea that you'd like to discuss, if you've got an area that you think we should do a better job of covering, throw them up there. We'll be glad to respond. And remember, Wednesday nights, we cover the leagues, the teams, the players, and the coaches. That's our Junior Hockey Live. And Bloomer and I just dive into different parts of the teams. We're not talking about how to move up, and we're not talking about the process, the nuts and bolts of moving through juniors. We're specifically talking about junior teams, junior leagues, coaches, and players. So join us on Wednesday night too, and hopefully you like the output that we've had lately, and I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday night if you can join us. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night, and good luck with all this as we move through the process together. See you later. Bye.